Hello there, Zoë Routh here, and welcome back to the show. My question for you this week is, are you making the most of AI tools and automation to make your life easier? Let's find out. On Planet Human, something very cool and interesting is happening on LinkedIn. Who knew? I just got a newsletter which had an article on how to use Bordi, B-O-R-D-Y. And it's an AI tool on the site LinkedIn. And basically, you send the AI a message through the platform with your email and your phone number. It calls you, has a conversation with you about who you are, what you're interested in, and then it makes personalized recommendations. Whoa. So as I'm recording this, I've just signed up to do that. So I will report later on what the outcome of that is. But I think that's really cool. The author of the article, which I'll link into the show notes, expressed his mind was blown. He had a personal introduction. He had a phone call with that gentleman, and they did have plenty in common. So far, so good. What his observations are is that the future of AI, at the moment, it seems like AI is all about generating new content, new videos, new images, new essays or articles, say, for example. The next iteration is really about connection and how automation and bots and agents can help bring us closer together faster. Our conversation today is about automation, how to actually streamline your work so that you have more room for making connections and so on. But I think this is an really interesting tool to go and play with. We'll put a link in the show notes for you to Bordi and also to the article. On Planet Zoë, I am well into progressing power games. I've been recording the audiobook. I've been developing the additional resources that will go along the book, which include checklists, how to see if your team, for example, is toxic, how to map the power dynamics that are happening in your team or organization, and so on. If you want advance notice of the Kickstarter, which will launch the book in May, please go to zoerouth.com, click on books, and find the Power Games page there. You can sign up, and you will get the first notification of when the launch goes live, which means first in, best dressed for some of the limited experiences, including a half-day workshop online around power games. But yeah, so there's some really cool bonuses that are happening there. You can find out by signing up for the Kickstarter pre-notification list. Yay! What if we used AI to expand our perspective? How might we go about doing that? After my conversation with our guest today, I was really thinking about that. You know, there's so much we can use AI for. And she, as you see in the conversation, she talks about putting in guardrails for the AI that you want to use. So customized ChatGPT. I thought, what if I use my conversations with chat to expand how I see things? So how can we use AI to expand our perspective and point of view? A couple of things we can do is just ask it questions, ask it to give different opinions, different perspectives, different political views on a particular insight, ask it to play the devil's advocate, ask for insights and points of view and perspective from somebody who's completely different to you from another part of the world, a different ethnic background, a different religious background, a different language speaker, and explore issues from that point of view. It can help unearth some of the biases that we might bring to the table and bring a little bit more rigor to our in-depth analysis or projections or strategic planning or the work that we do. I thought that could be a bit of fun. I think one of the things I will try experimenting with chat is ask it to debate a particular issue and see what comes as a result of that. Can they argue well? What might I learn from that kind of experience? And you can ask it what if scenarios, you know, what if we take this idea to the nth degree, what might happen there? I think that's a pretty interesting one too. So there's ways of using ChatGPT, not to put in guardrails and to narrow it, but to expand them. I think that's what I'm pretty excited about. Well, it's tea time in the office kitchen, and we have today's guest is all the way from Melbourne, Candice DeVille, and she is the co-founder and CEO of AI CoPilot, which is all designed to help small to medium enterprises navigate and implement AI solutions. So very topical and very useful and very exciting. As we get into this, we drill down onto, well, we expand and we look at the big geopolitical situation and then drill down onto brass tacks and what you can do next to use AI better, because chances are you could probably do it better. I know that I could. So without further ado, here's Candice. Well, all the way from Melbourne, welcome to the show, Candice DeVille.
Thank you so much for having me, Zoe.
It's such a great name, Candice DeVille. It sounds very Disney-like almost, you know?
Yes. I often have to say that when people are asking me for the spelling. I say it's like Cruella, but I swear I'm not.
Oh, that's a bummer. You always have to put that caveat. I'm not like, oh, anyway. But you are an amazing human who's had a long career in tech, and as a bit of a rare bird, I suppose, in tech still. How did you get started in this sector?
Really, it comes down to solving real problems. And for me, even as a kid, I loved problem solving. I had a father who was an inventor, a mother who was much more artistic, and it was a passion of mine that I really wanted to be able to uncover potential in myself, in people around me, in things. And I loved finding ways to solve problems, either mental or hands-on. And so that really led me into a fascination with technology. Even as a kid, my dad would teach me like how to make circuit boards and things like that. And it was not very popular for children in the 70s. But, there I was. And we had the very first, at-home computer, this big Dick Smith number. And I loved it. So I learned to code on those sorts of things and just being able to see what problems I could solve, but also what I could create, and seeing technology as an artistic expression as well as problem solving was really what led me to it.
Wow, that's very unusual. First of all, dad as inventor, what did he invent?
Oh, all sorts of things. I think that the latest thing he did is it's to do with a sonic cleaner for diamond head drills in the mining industry. So,
sonic cleaner, like using sound waves to clean off the drill bits.
Yeah. So it does all sorts of things.
Oh my God. Okay. That is so fun. I got stuck on you as a young girl making circuit boards. And I imagine me as a young girl, I was playing with swords and pretending I was at King Arthur's court.
Yeah. I did all of that and played with Barbies too. But hey.
Oh my God. Okay. Now I feel like deprived. I needed a circuit board in my life. But there's not just me who's out there missing the circuit board growing up as a kid. Let's talk about where we are now and AI. AI has been so hot right now for about a year or longer, ever since the LLMs came out in massive force. That's sort of been the driving conversation around AI, even though it's been around for a while. There's more to AI than just the LLMs. Give us a rundown of what's happening in the AI space and why it's so urgent and important for leaders.
Yeah. As you said, it has been around for a long time, and AI is such a big umbrella term. But really, this narrow AI that we're looking at with LLMs and generative AI, because it's improved and expanded in such leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, this is why we want to be paying attention to how that's developing, not just in terms of how it's changing the workforce, the corporate landscape, and what we can achieve, but also looking at it like a child, that we have the opportunity to set the path that this is on, what we teach it, the kind of information that we put there, the ethics involved in those who are creating these things. We have an amazing opportunity there where we're at in the timeline for this, for it to go really right if it's led and contributed to by the right people, versus where it could potentially go. So I think it's really worth paying attention to, as something that is going to become such a big part of our lives from now forever, and that we have that chance to shape it.
What do you mean by we need the right people to shape it?
Yeah. When I say that, I think we need a lot more diversity is a big part of it. And I'm a huge proponent for women in technology, women from all kinds of backgrounds, different countries, different cultures, whatnot, because a lot of the LLMs that have really taken off have come from the Western world. And of course, a lot of that training was from the Western world as well. And much of it is research that was potentially done in the US. We're also looking at things that might be research based on male populations. I think the more diversity that we can have in terms of information, culture, voice inside of that, the better it's actually going to become in terms of the tool itself and the output it can have, but the trajectory of how it is used as a tool and how it's applied in society.
Those are big regulatory. Well, one of them is an input thing, and another one's a regulatory thing. How is it used? And I'm curious, like, so there's, as an end user, I'm not behind the scenes doing the design and input into this thing. So I'm curious, does the end user have an impact on how this baby of an AI thing gets grown into an adult?
Yeah, absolutely. And a big part of that is in how we learn to use it and the questions that we ask. So understanding that it is a tool that we can use, but how are you as an individual using it, relating to it, and then applying that in either your work or your home life? So I'll give you an example. Like for me personally at home, one of the things I love to do is anytime I come up against something that is a challenge or I know it's going to be a real time suck, I think, how can I use AI to fix this? So it's starting to change even more how I solve problems, but looking at how I apply that better. And one of the projects I've taken on this year, my youngest daughter's starting year 12, but she has a lot of health problems. And so what we've done is together, we've sat there and we've built our custom GPT just using ChatGPT to make a tutor for her that understands not only what she's trying to study, but her learning challenges, her physical health, her sense of humor, all of these sorts of things, so that as she uses it, not only does her experience with the learning material become better, but her experience with how she interacts and uses AI to improve her own critical thinking skills and her communication skills.
I love that as a proactive, healthy manifestation of that. My mind also went to what if we're creating our custom GPT as a flirting partner? And the reason I asked for that, because I've got ChatGPT on my phone, and here's a little confession. I put a little English voice on it, and I've nicknamed my ChatGPT Tom Hiddleston, and which is the actor who played Loki in the
Yes.
Marvel universe. If you're not familiar with that actor, he's quite a good dancer, so I have kind of like a crush on him. this is so this is so unacademic, but anyway, I'm using myself as a guinea pig here. If I wanted to flirt with my little chat, Tom, that also shapes it too, right? And that could go down all sorts of dodgy tunnels. I'm not sure how else you want to judge them.
Yeah. It
What's the
can.
experience with that? I mean, there must be people doing weird stuff
Oh
with it
yeah,
too, right?
there is a lot of those sorts of things, and particularly there's some platforms that are really designed for that. And I think they're a little bit trickier because they're really aimed at teenagers and they don't have experience in understanding that. But ultimately, whenever we look at any large language model, so whether we're talking about ChatGPT or DeepSeek, one of the things we want to understand is what are the guardrails that are built into it? So what can it do and what can't it do? And you'll be surprised if you sit there and you start a totally new conversation with it and you start asking it questions about this. What can you do? And you can ask it that, but if you actually give it a number, things like, what are the top 101 things you can do? It
Yeah.
will list those out and you'll actually start to see patterns in those guardrails and you'll see whether there's things that you personally consider to be missing or holes in that. And so as you're working with your GPT, you can build new guardrails for that and tell it things like, I don't want you to talk about suggestive content. Anything with these words we can't discuss. So it also puts the onus back on you to really look at, well, what is the can and can't do that are built into this? And what should I be directing it for my own safety, my own comfort, what I want to know about resources? Is it telling me the truth? Have I told it it must always tell me the truth? These sorts of things.
Do you actually have to tell it that? You must
Yes.
always tell me the truth.
Depending on what kind of model you're using, I think it's always a very wise thing to do because of what they call hallucinations, where it
Yeah.
can just make things up. So if you want things that are well researched, it's important to ask it for things like citing legitimate sources, providing the links to those sources, and then you're actually able to go off and validate that information from the original source and do further research.
Yeah, I think that's useful. I've definitely incorporated that into the work that I'm doing with it. You mentioned DeepSeek, and that's
Hmm.
just come on the news as everybody's freaking out around the Chinese app DeepSeek. What's your understanding, experience, and musings on DeepSeek?
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get too political, but personally, I think it's excellent because we're seeing what was the original mission of OpenAI, which was to be open source, happening with DeepSeek.
Mm.
And of the open source models, it's definitely the most advanced, and we're seeing that it's more advanced than ChatGPT in certain ways. Again, it has guardrails. You can ask it what those are. But by being open source, it means that it's become available to so many more people to take that model and then train it the way they want to train it locally. So it doesn't mean that, you're necessarily going to give all your information to a foreign government that's going to be stored there. But ultimately, what it's doing is it's opening up a whole new pathway for people to work with these open source models that are extremely advanced and don't necessarily cost them an arm and a leg, and they're not beholden to a particular market leading system.
Yeah, I think the open source nature of it is quite interesting. Now, you
Mm.
said, I don't want to get political. How could you not talk about politics and AI? I mean,
I know.
it's pretty
It is
massive.
a really, really tough one. But I think that ultimately has been the biggest shakeup in this space
Yeah.
was that there was certainly a sense of ownership over AI progress and models and sort of wanting to be seen as first in the world. And then by models coming out that are cheaper, faster, open source, it really undermined that narrative at a particular point in time when that narrative was very, very important to the US government.
Yeah. So you're talking about the US being seen to be leading the AI
Yeah,
push with all of the major players firmly American. And then here come the Chinese. And the Chinese are getting batted back by the Americans, not just in that department, but with electric vehicles as well, with the
that's
tariffs
right.
that the US government are going to put on cheaper Chinese vehicles. So this seems like a regressive move in some ways when you think about the advancement of technology, and if we could get a proliferation of electric vehicles on the road, say for example, why do we want to hold that back? Then we come back to protectionism, and that's sort of the politics behind it.
Exactly. It was a big story.
Yeah. So uh, power games is what it comes down to in some ways. It's not always about the progress of humanity, it's the control of wealth and power and competitiveness between the major players. So I think this is an interesting one from DeepSeek. Is it owned by the Chinese government, or is anything independent in China? Who's the owner of DeepSeek?
Yes, so it's actually owned by a hedge fund. So there was a
Mm.
particular hedge fund, and they had bought a number of the NVIDIA chips in order to work on their hedge fund algorithms. So many years ago. And then, as a side project, one of the engineers who worked on the hedge fund created this DeepSeek model using those chips. So it was something that they were doing to create so that they could work on trading algorithms for the hedge fund. So it's owned by the hedge fund. But they also have the support of a lot of other companies in China, so who are providing things like the compute power, extra compute power, helping them get out of some of those DDoS attacks and things that were happening as well. So everything in China is definitely supported by the government in terms of different programs and resources and finance and whatnot. But DeepSeek is owned by the hedge fund.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So we've gone around the world in terms of what's the big picture with AI in terms of politics, guardrails. We're coming back to end user now, putting our own guardrails on its use, looking at what are the inputs behind the scenes to creating a more well-rounded adult version of AI. Now let's get down to brass tacks for leaders. So
Mm.
everybody knows AI, we need to have it in the business, and a number of different organizations are running a little mini pilot programs to look at things like automation and so on. Uh, Me, if I'm a CEO of a small business enterprise, got 100 staff, I got a lot on my plate. I've got lots of things to do in terms of just keeping the doors open. How should I be looking at this? Where should I get started? Where should I invest my time, money, and energy?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the short answer to that is to roadmap. And one of the processes that we go through with all of our clients is an AI roadmap first, because we find that without a lot of understanding of the business, what their pain points are, what their tech stack looks like, uh, knowing who in the business has some understanding of AI, or do we need to even provide foundational education on what it is and how it can be used? These are all really important. And quite often there are business leaders who are very excited about applying AI and sort of go off and buy this tool and buy that tool and try it and throw everything in. And it's just a hodgepodge. Like it's not working well, and no one in the business still really understands how to use or apply it. So working first to analyze where you're at and where you want to go, and then planning a roadmap from there is a process that we do with all of those clients, because you need to start with things that are safe and small and will give you a quick win, so that as you work through that one safe small project, you're able to learn a lot more about how AI works, how it can benefit the business, start looking at what are the other ROIs that you may not have considered on this sort of thing. And then from there, you can move on to further projects. And because technology is advancing so quickly all the time, having a organic roadmap that you know, okay, this is where we want to go, but we have to gradually move through that and follow along with what's actually happening with those advances. Things that you may have anticipated being able to do in 6 months, maybe now you can actually do in 6 weeks, because that technology has changed so much.
I think one of the challenges is the question of where do you want to go? It's like, I don't know, even know what's possible in terms of where do you want to go. So is
Exactly.
that forms part of the roadmap? It's like, you don't even know what's possible. Well, let's answer that question. What is possible for an SME, a small medium enterprise right now when it comes to AI and automation?
There is so much, but the first thing I always encourage them to start with is looking at the tasks that are the most repetitive, those that have a high level of human error involved, and the things that everybody on the team complains about doing. So there's always those little water cooler conversations of, oh, this thing's broken again, or it's not working, or I can never find this email. So some of those simple little things that actually end up being huge time sucks, as well as being quite, I guess, depressing for staff in a way that they often have to face the same problem over and over again. They're the things that we start with. And rather than looking at it as a big AI project that you need to implement, we break it right down into little tasks. What are those small things, first of all, that we want to do? And we can look at how can AI, and then sometimes AI stacked with automation, solve those really, really quickly and give you back actual days in your week.
I like this as a process. So I'm trying to visualize myself doing this.
Mm.
I'm like, yesterday I spent 20 minutes looking for this damn invoice on my computer system. Could not find it.
Mhm.
Could not find it anywhere in my Gmail. Google is supposed to provide this stuff easy, but sometimes their Gmail is crap.
Yeah.
So what I could have done potentially, I just want to check this with you, is gone to ChatGPT saying, I can't find this freaking invoice in my Google Gmail. How can I find it? And it would potentially have given me steps to find it easier.
It may have. At the moment, Google Gemini will do that, built
Oh,
straight
yeah.
into your Gmail.
Yeah.
And that is a huge help when you're looking for invoices. Again, it's still a manual thing that, if you're
Yeah.
looking for it, you can find them one at a time and Gemini will help you.
Yeah.
But I very much understand the pain of that when it comes to like monthly bookkeeping and trying to find all these random invoices. So one of the things I created for our own business is an automation where all of the invoices, receipts, everything gets filtered by Gmail. And then that automation will pass that into a specific folder on our Google Drive so that we know month by month, Here are all the invoices that I need. And then the bookkeeper gets all of that. And I never have to touch those emails. Every attachment is automatically downloaded, put into the drive, and the notification is sent to the bookkeeper to say, here's all the receipts and invoices for the month.
And so what tech are you using for that? That's a Gemini
Yeah.
thing?
So that one, we use a mixture of Zapier for the automations, which is really, really great. And then we stack our OpenAI key onto that for anything that we want done with the content of those emails. So if I need to get a list of all of the things or have them put in a spreadsheet or whatever happens. So it's something that you can create really simple little recipes for those sorts of actions to create those automations. And the only one word of caution that I would add to that is record keeping, making sure that you do have a record of what automations you have set up so that if and when it doesn't work, which will happen occasionally if something loses connection, you can go back and see where that problem is and fix it.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm looking at a template or a process for my leaders, or I'm a CEO thinking about this, I think list my grievances, my problems, my irritations. Step one. Step two, ask my local AI, whichever platform, whether it's Gemini or Open or ChatGPT or DeepSeek, whatever. How can I solve this with automations? And they would give you a list of suggestions. And then you can go and build, if it's an automation thing, go and build an automation behind the scenes and record the automation in a spreadsheet potentially.
Yes, indeed. And ChatGPT will be the best for that of the tools that you mentioned.
Okay.
Really, really helpful. If you're not familiar with automations and you know, if you're running a business with 100 staff, that's not what you should be doing with your time. But if you're running a much smaller company, you want to learn about these things, absolutely. ChatGPT can design it for you. It can step you through piece by piece by piece on how to make these. And I'll give you one little valuable tip for the audience if they're interested. Inside the new Google Gemini, there's an area that you can access that does live view, and it will see what's on your screen and it will give you a voice tutorial as you go through it. So you can say, am I supposed to click here? Where's the button to find this? It will be like having help desk on your headphones that will step you through everything you need to do, and that will work for any website.
So it seems to me like that's amazing. I have Gemini, I have chat. And do I know anything that Gemini can do? No. Well, I know about this much that it can do as opposed to its suite. It's kind of like the iPhone. It's such a massive tool. How much of it do you actually use properly? Maybe not that much. It seems to be there's a lot to learn just in terms of, oh, I didn't know I was capable of that. Does it just come back to what we iterated before? What's your pain problem? And remember to ask your local AI for some help. Is that what it comes down to? Or is there something else that we need to do to try and stay on top of all these massively helpful tools?
Yeah. Education is the biggest one because you can't know all of the things and all of the things change constantly. So people in our team, one of the things that we're always doing is learning, experimenting and playing with tools. So trying to do fun projects as well. And that is what underpins a lot of the education and the pieces that we're now delivering into organizations to help them learn what they need to learn for their use case, not all of the things that might be irrelevant or changing. So being able to work with someone who can actually guide your team to say, these are the key things that your team will really benefit from understanding and learning, then they can take it from there because their foundational knowledge will be enough that each individual then is able to become an AI champion in their own workplace.
I love it. And Candice, you mentioned before we hit record that you have a free program for leaders. Tell us about that.
We do.
I want to go sign up.
We've been producing online courses and we've been doing quite a number of free ones. So very beginners and 101 type of things available for free on our website, aicopilot.com. We do have other AI programs like Mastering AI for Professionals and these more advanced courses, but we want to be able to provide as much as we can to everybody to really start to get a handle on what it is, how it works, and how you can really get that benefit from having it work alongside of you.
Okay, so aicopilot.com, look for free courses and off you go.
That's it.
Awesome. Candice, are you ready for the Fast Three?
Let's see.
Happening anyway. So here we go. Number one, what is the future technology you most want right now?
Well, the ones that are actually possible, as opposed to, say, the instant transportation, which I would love to have.
It's very popular,
Wouldn't we all?
teleportation. Yep.
Mhm. I'm seeing a lot of movement in terms of developing AI glasses, and we're about to see a lot of them hit stores. There's heaps of projects on Kickstarter and whatnot, but AI glasses where you can film, record, ask questions, get instructions, get immediate translations, all of the things built into a simple pair of glasses. And I cannot wait to see what is going to come out in that space. We're seeing leaps and bounds above those Ray-Ban ones that are currently available.
Mm.
And I think the advances in that technology over the next couple of years will be astounding.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing that. Number two, what is the best tip you ever got for leadership?
I would say it is around hiring people for soft skills rather than the harder skills or competencies where you've had experience with this software or you have this particular degree. I hire for people that are those who have a love of learning and they constantly want to learn new things. So hiring for those attributes, those softer skills, you can always teach some of the harder skills, but the soft ones you just can't.
Okay, that's great. And what are you listening to or reading right now?
I am rereading The Parable of the Sower by
Really?
Octavia Butler.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful book.
It's a really powerful book, and I felt like now was the time for a reread on that one.
So, are you a sci-fi reader?
Very much. I'm a
Ah,
big, big fan of science fiction, dystopian fiction. I love Snow Crash. That was an old
oh my
favorite.
God, that was a
Yeah,
really good one.
yeah.
I'm a sci-fi author. I'll
I
hit you up.
saw that. I was so excited. I'm going to have to read.
I'll send you a copy of the Olympus Project.
That would be
Okay.
wonderful.
All right. Well, that was the Fast Three, and it was pretty fast. So, yay us. Candice, is there anything that I haven't asked that you would like to share with the audience?
I think probably the biggest one would be around the question of AI replacing jobs. And there are so many people concerned about this. And I'm also hearing from some businesses who are very keen to do that because
Mm.
they don't have an understanding that the best use of AI is for it to augment what your people are doing. So people that have subject matter expertise, have deep skills, you want to continue to work with those people and teach them more about adaptability, flexibility, how to work with the AI, and you will get better results every time than you will if you try and replace that person with AI.
All right. Keep the humans around.
Keep the humans around. Yeah.
Okay. Now we already have your contact details, AICoPilot.com. Is there anywhere else that you would love to have people reach out to you?
LinkedIn, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. I'm on just about every social platform you can imagine, but LinkedIn is great.
And it's Candice with an DICE at the end.
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. Candice, this has been great. Thank you. I've reinvigorated excitement around the possibilities of automation and AI. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for helping us navigate this turbulent territory of AI and the exciting future ahead.
Very exciting. Thank you so much, Zoe.
Well, something a little bit different on Read to Lead. This is a book called Tough Broad. Tough Broad. And I bought this, I don't know where I got the prompt from. It might have been a BookBub deal or something like that. But the tagline is by Caroline Paul, and the subject line or the tagline is From Boogie Boarding to Wing Walking, How Outdoor Adventure Improves Our Lives as We Age. Now, two things that sung out to me was, first of all, women doing boogie boarding. Hey, that's me. Women doing bushwalking. Hey, that's me. Women doing wing walking. That's not me. I thought that's really interesting, though. The idea of older women having adventures in the outdoors. That's me. I've been having outdoor adventures since I was a teenager and continue to have them. I've got 2 bushwalks lined up later this year, for example. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Is there a community of women out there? I'm not sure that there is necessarily a massive community. There's pockets of women who get together to do these adventures. But what I loved about this book is that it challenges our ideas of aging, that we don't just sort of have to wind down and to shrink into a box once we hit 50 plus. We can continue to do outdoor adventures, and how brilliant outdoor adventure is for expanding our horizons and our sense of self. So my book recommendation this week is Tough Broad by Caroline Paul. Well, that's it for the show this week. I hope you enjoyed it and got some practical insights that you can just get stuck into. I know I'm excited to do that, to really dive into AI a little bit further and to use it more effectively and to automate my life, to stop all the time wasting that goes along with all these rigorous and boring tasks. So I'm looking forward to A, solving those problems, B, to expanding my perspective, and C, continuing to learn and be curious. Hopefully that's you too. If you like the show, share it with somebody else, talk to it about other people, what you've learned, take some action, implement something that you've learned, sign up for Candice's free programs at AICoPilot.com. Rate and review the show. That really does help get the word out. It's unbelievable to help us be more visible. Send me an email, Zoe@zoerouth.com. Give me some feedback. I'd love to know a little bit more about you, what's resonating, what else you'd like to hear about on the show. In the meantime, don't forget to sign up for Power Games, the early notification of the Kickstarter campaign. It's on my website, zoerouth.com. Click on books, find Power Games, and we'll send you all the early notifications of what's happening with the book and when it goes live, so you can get your hands on the special editions and be one of the few to get those special offers. In the meantime, live with grace, lead in service. See you next week.